Alex, I spent 3 hours yesterday digging through a bin of old galvanized fittings just to find one half-inch elbow that wasn't rusted shut. By the time I found it, I'd forgotten what I was actually trying to build. It's funny how we spend half our lives fighting the chaos of the shop before we even get to the making part.
That sounds like a personality flaw, Tiger, not a hardware problem. But I get it. We're all trying to move a little faster. Welcome back to the TigerDen podcast, everyone. It's Monday, April 20th. We're looking at some tech that's supposed to save Tiger from himself, a massive goat-flavored payday, and some ways to get your tools paid for by someone else's wallet.
I like the sound of that. My wallet has been feeling a bit light ever since that new bandsaw followed me home. But let's look at this Cirrus automation news first. They're putting out these new measurement algorithms for pre-weld inspection on tubes and pipes.
Tiger, explain it to me like I don't spend my weekends staring at weld beads. Why do I care about a pre-weld measurement algorithm?
Think of it like a tailor. If you cut the fabric crooked, no amount of fancy stitching is going to make that suit fit right. In industrial piping, if those two edges aren't lined up to a microscopic degree before the arc even starts, you're basically building a ticking time bomb or a very expensive piece of scrap metal. This tech sees the gap better than any human eye could. It's about getting the physics right before you commit to the heat. If you get the geometry wrong at the start, you're just chasing your tail for the rest of the day.
So it's basically measure twice, cut once, but the computer is doing the measuring with a laser?
Precisely. And speaking of things doing the work for us, those humanoid robots in the South Korean shipyards are finally making waves over here.
Every time you say humanoid robot, I picture C-3PO with a welding mask on, tripping over a power cord. Is that what we're talking about?
Not quite. It's more about the ergonomics. Have you ever tried to weld a seam inside a double-bottom fuel tank on a ship? It's cramped, it's hot, and your spine ends up looking like a question mark by the end of the shift. These bots are stepping into the spots that would normally send a welder straight to the chiropractor. They aren't taking the craft away, they're taking the physical punishment out of it. It lets the humans focus on the high-level stuff while the machine handles the back-breaking repetition.
I'm all for anything that keeps people from having to crawl into metal boxes in the middle of summer. But if we're going to have more robots, we need more metal. I saw that Basic Metals is adding 42,000 square feet to their footprint. That's a lot of aluminum.
It's a huge signal that the domestic supply chain is actually waking up. For a few years there, getting a straight piece of stainless was like trying to find a unicorn in a haystack. Seeing a 42,000 square foot expansion tells me that the demand is real, and the local guys are ready to meet it.
Demand is definitely real, but you need people to actually work that metal. You found something pretty interesting for the apprentices out there? Actual free money?
Well, free is a strong word in a shop, but it's as close as it gets. Bring Back the Trades is doing this national grant program, up to $1,500 a month for tool programs.
Wait, $1,500 a month? That's not just a set of screwdrivers. That's a serious professional kit.
It makes me think back to my first year. I was buying sockets one at a time because that's all I could swing after paying rent. I used a flathead screwdriver as a chisel for 6 months. Don't look at me like that, Alex. Everyone's done it. But honestly, it's a miserable way to learn. These grants mean a kid can walk onto a job site with the actual equipment they need to be productive. It changes the whole mindset from how can I afford this to how can I do this well.
And it's not just the tools getting an upgrade. You saw what Train is doing with their new training center?
Oh, it's wild. This isn't just here's a wrench, go find the leak. They're teaching smart home integration and AI-driven climate systems. The HVAC tech of 2026 is basically a mechanical engineer mixed with an IT specialist. If you're coming into the trades now, you aren't just a handyman, you're a systems architect for the house.
It sounds a lot more sophisticated than the smack it with a hammer method you usually recommend.
Hey, the percussive maintenance technique has a very specific place in history, but usually that place is right before you have to buy a replacement part.
Okay, let's shift gears. We talk about the Maker Mogul Corner every week, but this Beekman 1802 story is mind-blowing. $92 million from goat milk soap. Tiger, please tell me you aren't thinking of getting a goat. The shop already smells weird enough.
No goats for me. I value my sanity too much. But look at what they actually did. They didn't just sell soap. They sold the story of the farm. They turned a chore into a lifestyle brand.
Shopify put out a guide about this recently, and they hit on something you talk about all the time, validating demand before you go all in.
That's the golden rule. I've seen guys spend $10,000 on a laser engraver before they've even sold a single $5 keychain. They build this massive empire in their garage, but they have no customers. Beekman 1802 started small. They proved people wanted the product, they built a community around it, and then they jumped off the cliff.
So you're saying I shouldn't quit my job to manufacture my custom cat ear-shaped picture frames just yet?
Not unless you've got a stack of pre-orders that'll keep the lights on for 6 months. You have to treat your process as part of the product. People don't just buy a wood bowl because it holds fruit. They buy it because they want a piece of that quiet Saturday afternoon you spent turning it.
Speaking of those Saturday afternoons, if someone is ready to stay in the shop and tackle a big project, you've got 2 flex builds on the list this week: a cabinet humidor and a built-in desk.
If you want to test your patience, build a humidor. It sounds simple. It's just a box, right? Wrong. It's a pressurized environment for tobacco. If those joints aren't airtight, or if you use the wrong species of cedar, you've just built a very expensive way to dry out your cigars. It's the ultimate joinery test.
And the built-in desk? That seems more practical for most of us.
It's the best value add for a house right now. But don't just screw some plywood to the wall. The mastery part of a built-in desk is the stuff you don't see. It's the hidden cable management, the ergonomic height that doesn't ruin your wrists, and the way it integrates into the trim of the room. A good built-in should look like it grew out of the wall, not like it's leaning against it.
I saw a video on the Maker channel recently, something like 60 tools to save you an hour. Is there actually a tool out there that can save an hour, or is that just clickbait for people like you?
Most of them are gadgets that'll end up in the junk drawer of regret by Christmas, but every now and then you find a jig, like a specific drawer slide jig or a self-centering drill bit, that actually makes a repetitive task disappear. My philosophy? If you find yourself doing the same measurement more than 3 times in a row, it's time to stop working and start building a jig to do it for you.
That sounds like a lot of work just to avoid work.
That is the very definition of a craftsman, Alex. We will spend 4 hours building a tool that saves us 10 minutes of manual labor just because the tool is more fun to build than the project.
I believe that. So, what's the big takeaway for this Monday? We've covered welding robots, $1,000,000 soap, and the struggle of the apprentice.
I think it's about the entry point. Whether you're getting a grant to buy your first set of wrenches or you're figuring out how to tell the story of your side hustle, the biggest hurdle is just getting the momentum started. You don't need the $92 million empire today. You just need to make sure the edges of your pipe are lined up before you strike the arc.
Start with the precision, and the progress follows. I like that.
Exactly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go see if I can find a second half-inch elbow in that bin. I've got a feeling I'm going to be in there for a while.
Good luck, Tiger. Don't get stuck in the scrap pile.
No promises. Thanks for hanging out in the den with us. Now go out there and build something you're proud of.